Ditini, igama lamakosikazi, malibongwe. Welcome everyone, and thank you to our band, Pam and Friends. You know, musicians always have a message for us artists in general, and one song that Pam and Friends have shared with us this afternoon goes Ndimhle ndiyintombi enesidima ndihambela phezulu, which means I'm beautiful, a dignified woman. I walk with confidence. Shortly, we will have the official welcome from my colleague, Professor Sue Harrison, DVC for Internationalization and Research. She's feeling under the weather. You know, with flu, you do have to be responsible. So she will be joining us online to welcome us officially. Over to you, Sue.
Many thanks, Elelwani, for the welcome. So I'd like to give a special welcome to our Chancellor, Dr. Precious Moloi Motsepe, to the UCT Chair of Council, Mr. Norman Arendse, to our Interim Vice-Chancellor, Professor Daya Reddy, to His Excellency, Raimundo Robredo, the Ambassador representing the Kingdom of Spain, Her Excellency, Chantal Marise Eto Apollo, the Ambassador representing the Republic of Congo, Dr. Norma French Mombo, the Western Provincial Minister of Health, Ms. Tanya Weyhart, the Consul General of the Federal Republic of Germany, Ms. Lise Denace, the Attaché Economic and Public Diplomacy at the Consulate General of Belgium, and Ms. Kyra Ramklas, the Chief Executive of Marimba Jam, who is one of the listed UCT alumni to be named in the Mail and Guardian's annual list of 200 young South Africans for 2023. During the next hour, we'll introduce you to women researchers who are breaking new ground for women in their professional fields, a young medical doctor and UCT alumna who is living our mission to unleash the potential of women to create a fair and just society, and a distinguished academic who is leading the team that is laying the groundwork for the University of the Future at UCT. But these are not the only women we are celebrating today. Across all our campuses and support offices, women colleagues display commitment, resilience, high standards of professionalism, and even courage every day by doing their jobs so well. And I believe they are the unsung heroes of UCT. I am, of course, speaking of the women on our past staff in every professional department and faculty. If you sisters were not keeping the wheels turning, our academics, our researchers, our lab staff, support services, faculty officers, and every other department in UCT would grind to a halt. Like you, I am proud of the women who are standing in the spotlight today, breaking the glass ceiling in their respective fields. But they did not break that glass ceiling on their own. They stand on the shoulders of the women who raised them, who taught them, who mentored them, and the women who continue to take care of them, of the many, and of the women who continue to take care of the many, sometimes onerous details of their work, the administrative and support functions that ensure the daily success of our university. I'm particularly honored by the hard work of the support staff in the Vice-Chancellor's office. Our personal assistants in particular carry a load that most people are unaware of. They're the hidden power behind every executive who wants to make a positive difference in UCT. And so I'd like today to thank every one of our sisters who makes a success of the support functions that help to make this university the best in Africa. Please join me in offering a round of applause in their honor. Thank you. They really are our unsung heroes. There's no typical woman or woman's experience. Ms. Kimberly Crenshaw, an American law professor at both the UCLA School of Law and Columbia School of Law, coined the term intersectionality as a way to explain how different forms of inequality operate together in a woman's life. especially in a country with such vast inequality, poverty, and cultural diversity as South Africa. Professor Crenshaw said, and I quote, "All inequality is not created equal. We tend to talk about race inequality as separate from inequality based on gender, class, sexuality, or immigrant status. What's often missing is how some people are subject to all of these, and the experience is not just the sum of the parts. Empowering women and unleashing their capacity includes recognizing how they've been affected by history, violence, poverty, racism, discrimination in their homes and in communities, as well as in the workplace. These all carry an impact that extends from generation to generation. And that is why it is so important to celebrate the space of women in our world and what they overcome. So as we appreciate where women have come from today and the future we see for ourselves and our daughters, we also acknowledge the complexity of the battle for transformation, diversity, inclusion, and opportunity that millions of South Africans face today. To help address a few of these complexities, in 2019, UCT made available 5 substantial Advancing Women Awards for research in areas where women researchers are scarce, including projects that serve to empower women. And as I call their names, I invite them to stand. The recipients of the 3 main grants were Dr. Katie Altieri of the Department of Oceanography, whose project is entitled Seeing a Change in the Demographics of Oceanography Research in South Africa. Dr. Floretta Bonzaya in the Department of Psychology, who unfortunately can't be with us today, on unsettling knowledge production on gendered and sexual violence. Professor Janet Hapwood in the Department of Molecular and Cell Biology on contraceptives and HIV. And then there are further 2 projects, Professor Patricia Koyman, the Saatchi Chair in Nanomaterials and Catalysis, on in-situ transmission electron microscopy of fuel cell-related catalysts in action. One moment. And finally, Dr. Robin Pickering of the Department of Geological Sciences on the next great South African paleoanthropologist. Where is she? So we've been following their work through the term of the 5-year grant, and we're excited by the substantial progress they have made. Today we will hear again from some of the recipients via this short video and their on the latest highlights of their work and the reflections of the past 5 years. I hope you'll enjoy this and the remaining featuring of those women breaking through the ceilings that this event will feature. Thank you.
Next year is the 100-year anniversary of the discovery of the Taung child, the first truly ancient early human fossil to be found in Africa. Since that discovery, a rich fossil record has been accrued in South Africa and Africa more broadly, making Africa the cradle of humanity.
But the benefits and accolades for this research have largely not accrued to Africans. The Human Evolution Research Institute, or HERI, was established in 2016, and we made it our mission to undertake world-class human evolutionary research while prioritizing transformative training and practice. Receiving one of the Advancing Women grants bolstered our ability to support young Black women doing research into human evolution in a number of ways.
Our Advancing Women grant funded PhD and postdoctoral students studying everything from the hominin fossils themselves to the origins of technology to ancient environments and transformative practice. 2 of our grant-supported PhD candidates are set to submit within the year. We also used the Advancing Women funding to run an annual women-only field camp where we trained younger women with the goal of growing inclusivity and keeping them in the discipline. Here we discussed difficult issues like sexual harassment, ethical practice, and menstruation in the field.
A small portion of the funding was also put towards our human evolution exhibit, Humanity, which opens at Aziko National Museum's this Heritage Day. we mobilized a diverse team of co-creators, including our students, to produce a truly unique decolonized exhibit narrating the human evolution story, decentering the lone white male explorer, and centering the diversity of humans and how we came to be this way.
Advancing women funding and exposure has helped us immensely. Importantly, it has allowed us to grow a cohort of young South Africans and bring them together in new ways. We learned just how important and transformative this active cohort building can be. It created incredible lifetime bonds, support systems, networks, and new communities of practice.
This has really deepened our understanding of what our discipline is lacking, and has led us to look critically at practice and explore new ways of enhancing African connections and scholarship going forward to build a better, truly transformed discipline. This includes the rollout of an African training network, something we've just started this year.
We want to end by thanking UCT for the Advancing Women support. It's played an important role in helping us to become what we are today, an internationally recognized center of decolonized thought and practice in human evolution.
Over the past 5 years, the Advancing Women Grant has funded our project entitled Unsettling Knowledge Production on Gendered and Sexual Violence, which has been housed at the Hub for Decolonial Feminist Psychologies in Africa in the Department of Psychology at UCT. Our project has worked to collectively disrupt the normative assumptions about gendered and sexual violence. Almost 3 decades of democracy in South Africa has led us to think critically about where we are in the fight against gender-based violence. In our work, we explore how academic research on violence can contribute to social change that advances gender equity and non-violence. We engage ways of doing research that works against dehumanization, while at the same time working toward producing knowledge that can make a meaningful change in the lives of girl children, women, and gender non-conforming persons who are affected by racist, patriarchal, misogynistic, transphobic, and homophobic violence. The project has worked with approximately 60 students, produced around 70 publications, and worked with 5 NGOs. We've also had numerous public and media engagements. There are too many achievements to mention over the past 5 years, but our students have continued to excel and receive awards such as the NRF Research Excellence Award, an award for the Best Student Paper at the annual Congress of the Psychological Society of South Africa. The foundation for these outputs has been a growing decolonial community of feminist researchers coming together to create the safe and fruitful space that our project and the Hub is. The funding has provided much needed pragmatic support for important work on violence in our country. More than this, it has supported students from marginalized communities to do the work which centers their own experiences and the experiences of other marginalized communities in South Africa. Unsettling knowledge production has meant interrogating research practice and academic spaces. Through this process, the funding has allowed us to create safe spaces for scholars who engage the difficult topic of gendered violence. From everyone in our project, we would like to extend our sincere gratitude for the opportunities this funding has created and the spaces it has supported.
Hi everyone. I'm going to give some reflections on the last 4 or 5 years on our project funded by the Women for Women Award from UCT. So our research topic is highly relevant to the Women for Women Award because it's research done predominantly by women in the group, and the topic is highly relevant to women's health, i.e. choice of contraception for minimal side effects. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the topic. So what we are interested in is how different contraceptives widely used in South Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa affect things like immune function and hormone levels, because these things have a very important impact on susceptibility to infectious diseases, in particular HIV. And interestingly, the hormone levels also affect various behavioral outcomes like sexual behavior and depression. So we have also monitored these. Our strategy has been that we've worked on samples from a randomized clinical trial, which we were involved with, which was taking place in South Africa at 2 sites, one in Durban and one in East London. We obtained samples from women on these 2 different contraceptives, Depo-Provera and NET-EN. And what we did is then did experiments on these samples to try and find out more about immune function and changes in the hormones that affect reproduction and behavior. We also did some experiments in vitro in cells in the lab to try to understand the mechanisms behind these clinical changes, which was a very novel and translational approach. So we've actually been very productive. We've published quite a lot of papers in international journals over the last 4 to 5 years. We're busy writing up a lot of papers as the grant draws to a close. And one of our major findings is that these 2 contraceptives do different things in women. So we find very big differences in the effects on immune function, in particular in the female genital tract. We also find major effects on hormone levels like estradiol, progesterone, testosterone, and other hormones that regulate reproduction, as well as sexual behavior. And we also found differences in sexual behavior between women on these 2 different contraceptives. So this has been a very exciting project, which has basically led to a lot of important outputs, and in particular, a lot of important training outputs. So the team at UCT is comprised of about 12 people, mainly postgraduate students and postdoctoral fellows. And most of the funding from the Women for Women Award has been used to fund bursaries for these students. The training program has been very successful. The students have been exposed to a lot of international collaborators and also various different disciplines, because the project is interdisciplinary. For example, statisticians, clinicians, and various gynecologists and epidemiologists, learning a wide range of skills besides the generic skills of critical thinking, writing papers, and understanding the literature. So we feel that we have really benefited from this project in many ways and built a very successful platform for teamwork work in the field of HIV and contraceptives, which will be of benefit for future projects in South Africa. So I would like to thank UCT for giving us this award, without which a lot of this research would have not been possible. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, my name is Wanjiru Thaivi, and I'm a third-year PhD student here at UCT in the Department of Oceanography, and I specialize in ocean and atmospheric science. So my main interest is the atmospheric and oceanic drivers of rainfall patterns across Southern Africa. I believe my area of interest has significant value. Southern Africa is a region that relies quite heavily on rainfall for food production, and so climate change and climate variability can pose pretty big challenges to food security because they directly impact agricultural productivity. And part of addressing some of these challenges requires a deep understanding of how the ocean and atmospheric circulations impact moisture transport and produce the rainfall patterns that we observe. And hopefully, by filling these knowledge gaps, we'll be able to, in the future, monitor and perhaps predict climate extremes or weather extremes that are often so detrimental to agricultural productivity within the region. Part of the inaugural cohort of the Ocean Women Fellowship Program, and I can say that being a part of this fellowship has truly been an enriching experience. I think the camaraderie, the mutual support that we've shared has really been invaluable. I think what I cherish the most is this sense of community, because we've been able to navigate academia and the various challenges and obstacles we've encountered by being able to share our successes, share our failures, and lean on each other during times of high stress and difficulty. And so I think just being able to learn from diverse perspectives is really inspiring, because it shows you that by shared determination, you can overcome every obstacle, truly. To all those who are embarking on a similar journey, I would say embrace and really press into the challenges that you encounter, because the purpose, I think, is to build within you resilience and a sense of determination. I would also say seek mentorship and surround yourself with supportive peers, because the encouragement and that perspective can really make up for the lack of morale you have during difficult times. So it really comes in handy. I would also say that even though it's a difficult journey, reminding yourself that every stride that you take, it's not only contributing to your own success, but it's also providing an example for generations to come. And so stay focused, stay curious, seek inspiration, and keep pushing forward.
So the projects they lead or are a part of are really a showcase of an initiative, UCT for Women by Women, introduced by our former Vice-Chancellor, Professor Womxn. So it really just shows that we really can continue to strengthen UCT for Women by Women as an institution in its own right. So, one of the measures of a university's excellence is where our alumni go after graduation and how they apply the education they have received. Every year, members of the UCT community are listed among the Mail and Guardian's annual list of 200 young South Africans. This year's list features no fewer than 21 UCT students and alumni. One of those alumni is Dr. Samkelisiwe Nyamate. At age 31, she is a medical doctor and research clinician at the Desmond Tutu TB Center, where she researches the effects of tuberculosis and other lung diseases on the lung health of children and how this impacts as they grow up. She leads an NGO called Alake, which means build, focusing on promoting skills development in disadvantaged communities. Through Alake, she provides support to the Womxn Foundation to mentor young women in township high schools and support the mentorship program of medical students at UCT. As the Mail and Guardian says, and I quote, Samke is a trailblazer who is merging her experience in public healthcare to transform communities and health systems, close quote. I'm proud to introduce Samke to you and to have her give us a short message. Over to you, Samke.
Good afternoon to all distinguished guests, Professors Harrison, Prof. Ramugondo, Prof. Maswime, and Dr. Molweni Motsepe. Mama, Daddy, Molweni. It's an absolute pleasure to stand as a UCT alumni to give a short account on the blessing of having attended this institution and how far I've come since then. It came as a pleasant surprise to me when I learned of the MNG nomination and subsequently the award. Similarly, when I'm invited to platforms such as these, I often have to remind myself that I am the right person for the opportunity. And when that feeling comes, I reach into my arsenal of greats. Marianne Williamson tells me, "Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure about you." My girl, former Miss Universe Zozibini Tunzi, reminds me that we should be teaching young girls to take up space. Nothing is as important as taking up space in society and cementing yourself. Toni Morrison tells me that when you get these jobs that you have been so brilliantly trained for, just remember that your real job is that you're free. You need to free someone else. if you have some power, then your job is to empower someone else. So since leaving UCT as an undergraduate, I went on to the world of clinical work, got a sense of my true responsibility of effecting change in a health system that is crippled. I subsequently completed an MSc in child health, and I'm currently back at my alma mater in public health, working within communities to strengthen community participation with others, including the People's Health Movement. I began a journey very dear to my heart, which is mentorship. Years ago, I started supporting organizations such as Womxn, which aims to mentor young women in underprivileged circumstances to also get a chance to work in the sciences, and have recently partnered with UCT to mentor those medical students struggling to complete their academic journey and psychosocially. I've worked in different areas in South Africa, contributing to the greater medical community, including in my current research position. But more importantly, I got to learn a few true lessons in life. I learned to navigate grief, losing my grandmother, younger brother, and dearest friend to mental illness in a short time span. And I've learned how to show up, even in those hard times. I've learned to be resilient and to make a difference in spaces that don't always celebrate being a young Black woman and what I have to offer. What I've remained overwhelmingly sure of is that there is enough space for all of us. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. We may not all rise to fame or have groundbreaking discoveries, but we all have a platform, and we can use it wisely. And as I move and grow, I hope to take some women along with me. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. Inspiring, isn't it? Let's give her another round of applause. We are very proud of you, Dr. Nimate, and thank you for coming back to us. And just looking around and the different generations that are here, I'm sure we feel hopeful about our future, the future of our children and those that come after. Thank you again. And it seems that medical professionals never get enough. Their heart for giving beyond their medical vocation is clear. And our next speaker is doing just that, augmenting her very demanding medical responsibilities to serve the wider UCT community with a forward-thinking plan for a long-term future as an institution. Professor Salome Maswime, whom I call my sister, doesn't help that we also have links to that province. Sometimes people disown us because of our heavy accents, but we are of this continent, along with other sisters and brothers. And really, you found it not enough to be the head of the Division of Global Surgery in the Health Sciences faculty itself, a first. In that capacity, Professor Maswime is helping to pioneer a relatively new and inspiring interdisciplinary field of inquiry, research, practice, and advocacy to strengthen surgical systems, to improve health outcomes, and to achieve health equity for all people who need surgical, obstetric, and anesthetic care. But she also wears another hat at UCT. Many of us have to call her boss because we serve in the committee that she chairs, the Future Project Steering Committee. She's leading a team of experts who are examining the places and spaces where we work, where we build connections and friendships. This includes a review of UCT's physical infrastructure, as well as our social and community spaces, with the goal of developing a more inclusive campus environment that reflects our vision for the future and inspires both staff and students to continue to pursue excellence in all that we do. So I'm very proud to hand over to Professor Maswime to explain all these initial concepts that are linked to the project.
The year is 2034, and you are about to visit the University of Cape Town. What will that space look like? The one you walk into, dial into from anywhere on the continent. The year is 2034. What technological tools must our UCT laboratories be kitted out with? The year is 2034. How will the Rondebosch, Mowbray, Observatory, Salt River, Waterfront, Philippi, Sandton, and the surrounding communities be benefiting from our UCT places, spaces, and services? Colleagues and students, it is my honor as Chair of the University of the Future Steering Committee and Project to invite you to consider these and other questions as we collectively work towards building our University of the Future. As Thomas Sankara said in 1985, we need the courage and extreme clarity today to invent our future. Our University of the Future must be an inspiring, transformative, and enabling space, a safe space, an ecologically sustainable space, a generative place, an excellent space, one from which our potential can be unleashed. We need spaces, places, services, and functions which will contribute towards a just, equitable, and engaging environment, one in which our excellent teaching, learning, and research will be experienced and delivered. Our University of the Future will be a fit for purpose and fit for our future. Join us on the journey towards our 2034 university, our University of the Future.
Interim Vice-Chancellor, Chancellor, Chair of Council, Deputy Vice-Chancellors, Deans, Honorable Ambassadors, invited guests, I greet you all. On behalf of the University of the Future Steering Committee, I'd like to wish you all a wonderful Women's Day and Women's Month, a month where we celebrate the great strides we have made as women in South Africa, whilst remembering those who went before us, the trailblazers, the sheroes who fought the good fight for social justice, advancement, and equity for women in South Africa. But before we speak about the future, let's speak about the past a bit. If one looks back in history, it goes without saying that the past was unjust and unfair to women, especially women of color. Access to higher education was not accessible to many of our older sisters, mothers, and grandmothers, despite their deep desire to learn, high levels of performance, and their efforts to contribute to society. But today, we ask a different question. Have we created an enabling environment for women in higher education? Remembering that many of our institutions of higher education, especially the oldest ones, were not designed or built by women or for women. So I've titled my talk, The Future We Want as Women for Women. We may want to ask, what type of environment does one need to thrive and feel like they belong in an institution of higher learning? Is it the shape and the color of the buildings, the artwork, the relationships, the curriculum, the policies, or the support services that we create? Despite what I describe as a thriving career where I've had a lot of good relationships, I also recently had my own personal experience where I had to confront my own sense of belonging. After more than 10 years working as an academic, I looked at the walls in my office and wondered what was missing. I immediately decided to look for a portrait and found one that resonated with me, a portrait of an older African woman wearing traditional attire and a beautiful cloth wrapped around her head. I can't explain the feeling, but when I looked at that, I saw a woman who represents who I am, where I come from, and who I want to be. And that picture ignited something inside of me that said, I belong. It wasn't about the policies or the programs. It was seeing an image that represents me up on my wall inside of my office. In May this year, we launched the University of the Future project with the vision creating an enabling environment to unleash human potential for a fair and just society. The University of the Future is a bold and exciting project looking to develop the physical environment, social and community spaces, and other enabling structures, processes, and technologies within the university. It's designed to attract talent, attract staff, local business, government, donors, industry, and the broader community to UCT. As we reflect on Women's Day, we should think about what a campus built by women for women looks like. With the high rates of gender-based violence, we can immediately think about the safety required and the safety that the campus may provide to women if we think about it, about what to do to improve safety. Departments don't often think about some of the messages that are sent out when we walk into lecture halls with only portraits of men on the wall, neglecting the reality that some of our mothers could have been on those walls had they been given a chance to. Excellence starts to have a face when we don't think about the imaging, and it excludes some of us and tells us that we are not excellent. But what about the social spaces, sports facilities, eating spaces? Sometimes I just wish I could find a bench and sit down and have girl talk on campus between the lectures and all the other things. I must admit that as I prepared this talk, there wasn't much literature on how universities make women feel. There was a lot of literature about women being barred from universities, but no one has really done research of whether we feel a sense of belonging in these institutions that were not designed by us or for us. On Friday, we launched the University of the Future Challenge, a call for ideas to the university-wide community, requesting you to submit ideas for infrastructure and services. And I want to encourage you and challenge you as women to challenge us with interesting and innovative ideas that will help us to create a UCT that represents you and that resonates with you. Thomas Sankara has dared us to reinvent the future, and I dare you to challenge us to reinvent the spaces and places within UCT with the future in mind. I once again want to say Happy Women's Day to all of us at UCT. I close with the words of Rupi Kaur saying, I stand on the sacrifices of 1 million women before me, thinking, what can I do to make this mountain taller so the women after me can see further? The real opportunity for our generation will be to create an environment where women can thrive and lead in institutions of higher education. That is the future that we want. So may our sacrifices today pave a better future for the women who will come to UCT after us. Join us in designing the future that we want. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Maswime. And of course, we stand on the shoulders of other women who really cleared the path for us. Helen Joseph, Lillian Ngoyi, Ruth First, and many whose names may not be in history textbooks, but were there to make it clear to the government of the time that Watita Mfazi. Aha. Thank you, Prof. Maswime. Dr. Precious Muloyi-Motsepe has served UCT as our Chancellor since 1 January 2020. Just like the other day. She shares with UCT a passion for education, research, social responsiveness, and a future where poverty and inequality no longer limit the potential of women to take their rightful place as leaders and providers. The one other passion that we both share is for young people. She doesn't miss any event where she's invited by our SRC, fundraising events, or any event where they really just want to chat to someone who inspires them. Dr. Muloi Mutsipe launched a career in public health and soon began to address the many economic, social, and educational factors that affect the health of women and their families. With her husband, Dr. Patrice Mutsipe, she founded the Mutsipe Foundation in 1999 to advance development work across Africa and to work closely with other global philanthropic organizations such as the Schwab Foundation for Social Entrepreneurship, the Harvard Kennedy School, and the Milken Institute, among others. We are privileged to hear her, and we look forward to listening to you, Dr. Muloi Mutsipe.
It's still morning, is it? Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. What an honor to be here with all of you. Oh my gosh, young medical doctors. This is incredible. We're very, very proud of you. Let me acknowledge our Vice-Chancellor, Chair of Council, Deputy Vice-Chancellors, as well as all the dignitaries that are here with us today. I'm really excited. It always makes me so happy to be back here at UCT. By the way, Women's Month also happens to be my birthday month. So, and during this month, I always, like I think most of us, find myself reflecting on my own life, which is way beyond 31. I also reflect on the role that we have played as women and continue to play to protect our democracy and to contribute to transformation. We know that in recent years, many economies have faltered. Jobs have been lost, and many democracies have seen some loss of trust and cohesion. These trends affect everyone, but they have a strong impact on women, and especially vulnerable women. So let me state something simply but very important at the start. Assertively working for gender equality is an ethical imperative. One of the Sustainable Development Goals, as well as the most powerful way we can advance general economic development. If we carefully consider the SDG framework of the 17 goals, it is clear that it would be impossible to achieve sustainable transformation if we leave women behind. Women have such a strong influence over their children's education, the food in the home, the health and well-being of family members, and their community. And especially in Africa, women are often the sole breadwinners for their families. At leadership levels, women have a different style, and we need that. And there is ample research supporting the idea that diversity and inclusion promote innovation in the sciences and in the fields of technology. At UCT, we know this, and I'm proud of the central mission of UCT's Vision 2030, which is to unleash human capacity to create a fair and just society. And it is really exciting to hear some of the ideas around the future university at UCT, which will be incorporated into this vision, I hope. So, given the beautiful ambition that we have as UCT, what matters most right now And where should those of us who care deeply about gender equality and the circumstances of women focus our attention? There are many factors that impede gender equality and many factors that constrain the ability of women to live fully realized lives. Gender inequality is driven by complex and interrelated forces, and our actions and our policies should also therefore take place in different areas at the same time. We do not require one simple solution. It actually does not exist. But we need a spectrum of initiatives that contribute to gender equality and that try to address gender inequality in real, concrete contexts. I want to praise UCT for intersectional research and outreach efforts that you do, because these fall across the spectrum of possibilities whilst always focusing on women's empowerment. And two examples come to mind, and we've heard of two brilliant examples as well this morning from the good doctors. Since 1995, researchers at UCT and Columbia University in New York have worked to establish the Khayelitsha Cervical Cancer Screening Project. During this time, they've helped women overcome the shame and discomfort that exists around women's bodies. Professor Lynette Denny went so far as to work with traditional healers and a praise singer to encourage women to be proud of their bodies, while also working to build professional capacity in the township. Professor Denny has since trained 12 registered nurses and 10 doctors in gynecological best practice, trained close to 30 community health workers as formal translators and educators of patients and assistants to the doctors, trained 3 data capturers. This outreach in Khayelitsha will carry on and grow because Professor Denny and her team have taken the time to get to know the community members and their needs, and to build the kind of trust that keeps a community alive. I'd like you to give Professor Denny a round of applause for the work that she does in the community. And the second example is in construction industry, where UCT is contributing to knowledge in sustainable contractor development. Professor Abimbola Windapo of the Department of Construction, Economics and Management is South Africa's and her native Nigeria's first female professor of construction management. Her research at UCT has focused on sustainable contractor development and addressing pervasive problems such as unaffordable housing, overcoming inadequate infrastructure and service delivery, unhygienic environment, destitution, and high rental costs. By developing women's voices in the construction industry, UCT is promoting gender equality and diversity, whilst also creating a platform for women to have a voice in infrastructure and service delivery. Please give a round of applause to the professor as well for the work that she does in the community. It is really exciting for me to hear about the work that the various professors, doctors, and many NGOs that have presented this morning are doing. And what excites me most is that your work is not just in the classroom. It is work that is done within the community, and you get to understand the community, the people who will benefit from your research work. So I really wish to applaud you. I take my hat off for you. I'm very excited for ourselves through the foundations that we work with to see how we can support your work as well. The foundation, the Motsepe Foundation, which I founded with my husband, has for many years deliberately worked in a range of areas to reduce poverty and empower women in the same areas that you work in. And as part of our Girls in STEM initiative, we work throughout the year with schools across the country to encourage girls in critical thinking and to nurture their interest in finding solutions to complex problems. Not enough girls are encouraged to support and supported with tutoring in math and science. So I'm really excited about your work. The lack of mentorship limits the number of women enrolled and graduating from universities in the STEM fields. And through this Girls in STEM initiative, we expand the girls' interest into these fields. One way is simply to introduce them to female role models, many of whom have faced similar obstacles that younger girls face, such as the belief that girls can't be computer programmers or girls cannot fly aeroplanes. Role models such as Professor Windapo and many of you here have such a profound impact simply through your demonstration effect. Following my entrepreneurial journey as a medical doctor, yes, I was, which is some time ago, I recently became very interested in further expanding my interest in entrepreneurship and the power of its catalytic effect in society in other sectors. And out of this, I established African Fashion International, which was an effort to build an ecosystem to achieve 3 objectives. Firstly, we wanted to aggregate the disintegrated industry and provide a global platform for African designers and in general showcase the beautiful, powerful work coming from the continent. Secondly, given the large share of jobs in the fashion value chain held by women, we wanted to offer ethical, well-paying jobs to support female-owned small businesses where possible. And lastly, and very importantly, we wanted to help to work towards ecologically sustainable materials, fashion, as well as creating an opportunity for others at universities, at institutions of learning, to come up with materials that are biodegradable. I have found this work, and with that of the foundation, that persistent matters a great deal, that one should be willing to make mistakes and learn from them, and learn from others, and that pursuing an intersectional approach, such as UCT is doing, enhances learning, and it draws a wider group of partners and collaborators, which in turn builds deeper momentum. It is impossible for any one person to drive gender equality at the scale that is required for transformation. I recently joined Banyana Banyana as well to help to sort the impasse that arose just before they traveled to New Zealand. And people failed, I was really astounded to realize that people failed to see what the crux of the problem was. It wasn't that there was insufficient money for the girls to go through to New Zealand. It was an issue of gender equality in sports. That's what the problem was all about. And unless we really courageously face this problem and call it out, we will always be paying lip service to gender equality. So this is why, as I close, I wish to thank each of you for your unique and valuable contributions. Women's Month is also an opportunity for us to show our gratitude for one another, for being the role models that girls need, for the advocacy, the strategy, the policies, and the programs that you implement to make gender equality a reality. I thank you for being here today. I thank the organizers and those who spoke today. And please let us work hard to attain gender equality and give every woman a chance to live a prosperous and dignified life. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Muloi-Motsepe, and thank you for bringing up the issue of women in sports. As we celebrate excellence and women in science, it is important that we recognize other women who are leaders in their own right, and our Chair of Council will attest to what it means to have sports that is supported in this country. Because oftentimes sports people carry us, and it is the case that Banyana fully supported will really just be a jewel on our crown. Colleagues, speakers, and special guests, the scope of this program has emphasized that not only is it that women are powerful, but that their power becomes even remarkable when they are part of transforming our world. Indeed, women can transform our world. The women of 1956 showed us in very clear ways that indeed women are agents of change. I also want to thank our interim Vice-Chancellor, Professor Diaredi, because he was not intimidated by having women take over the stage today. And it isn't out of character. It is who he is. I thank our speakers, Professor Harrison, my colleague. It really shows commitment for someone to show up, even if they have to do it online, with a voice that obviously fails her because she is recovering from a flu. I also wish to thank our speakers, Dr. Yomate, our Advancing Women Grant recipients, but other speakers as well, Professor Maswime, and again, Dr. Muloi-Motsepe, for the glimpses they have shared with us into the challenges women face today and the ways they are helping to meet those challenges. We all understand that their successes do not come easily. They rely on determination, hard work, and especially on teamwork. This is why we are gathered here today, to align ourselves with the spirit of empowering our sisters wherever they are and whatever they do. I thank our colleagues in the communication and marketing department. They always show up, always attentive to detail, creative, and you can see in this event alone that we can really say without batting an eyelid that we are a world-class university. It is thanks to them. We also thank the staff of Protea Hotel by Marriott Waterfront Breakwater Lodge for their excellence in preparing our refreshments, which we've started enjoying and will continue to do so. And our speakers have been so great with time. We have ample time to network and eat. Finally, I thank each of you for joining us to make this day memorable. This is the end of our formal program, but I invite you to mingle and enjoy each other's company, along with the refreshments to be served.